Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Ark Builders. This is your episode 2, and right now I'm actually standing in the watchtower that we made last episode, because I thought it'd be a great way to just recap from that episode. So we made the watchtower, guys. You can see the shield generator up there. And I decided, actually, on a name right now for what I'm actually going to call the entire island, which is later going to just become one giant. Well, I'm not going to try to build over the entire island. I'm going to have different spots throughout. But I want to call my civilization Panda Land. I know it sounds a little bit corny and definitely not as creative, but I thought, hey, I'm Sacro Panda. It's going to be a Panda Land. We're going to have fun here. So we going to rock with it. So I'm going to get some signs up around so we kind of can mark off the area we're going to be building in today. And I decided that I was going to do, like I talked in the last episode, I'm actually going to do a research facility. I'm thinking of a place where, like, there'd be like weapon testing, resource refinement, water purification. So this is going to be more of a factory slash demo slash kind of like production place. Which, when we start actually doing more around the island, just kind of using this to kind of have fun, play around in. Hopefully get some of our other friends up here and just kind of mess around. We'll definitely need kind of an R&D lab to to work out some of these crazy ideas that we're trying to do. All right, so I'm gonna go to the place where we're gonna start, and then I'm gonna kind of just talk a little bit about what my idea was. So the idea was that I found this spot, and it's up actually on top of the cliff, right behind my base. Because obviously there's no like already. Well, there's a couple areas on the map, and I know there's actually one underwater that is actually pretty much surrounded on all sides by water, but or by rock, the natural rock phase, which we can't do anything about, guys. Like we kind of have to build within the means of the map already. But I wanted to build the lab kind of up into the back because what you don't want, if I'm building stuff down here, like living quarters or like let's say office buildings, like any number of just like normal things you'd see around. Like what you wouldn't have is like a huge refinement, a research laboratory, like right down where there's also like housing and stuff. Like that doesn't make any sense, guys. Like so, I was gonna put it up and back here because then at least it would be up out of the way. It's at a different elevation. So let's say like we're testing rockets in here, which is very realistic thing that we might be doing. And if a stray rocket just happens to fly out in this direction, it's not going to hit any of my surrounding buildings. Plus, it's kind of up into the back and is kind of hidden by this natural foliage. And so, if you think of like, if I'm trying to protect my civilization, and one of the ways I do that is by coming up with new technologies in my R&D lab, I kind of want to make sure that one, I can, from the watchtower, see people coming, and two, keep it hidden. So I'm going to use some of this natural foliage to my advantage as I build. Now, once again, this structure is probably going to end up being a little bit more bland in terms of the way the outside looked. Because, I mean, obviously, guys, a lot of the stuff is still pretty angular, still pretty blocky in how you build. But what I'm actually going to try to do more is build more of like a compound of a place. So it's like a lot of smaller multi-purpose rooms that are connected so that way we can travel in between and we know exactly what we're going to be using each room for. So this video might be a little bit longer, guys, so just bear with it. Once again, I'm going to try to do most of the building off screen so that way you don't have to be too bored, and then we can just kind of go through where my thought process was for the build. Alright, guys, so I'm back, and even though for you guys it was only like a couple of seconds, for me it's almost, oh god, it's almost been like 3 hours. So I finished 2 out of the 6 buildings I wanted to do for this R&D lab, because like I said, I wanted to make it more of a I want to have places that you can do specific things in that are productive for this R&D lab, and I actually ended up having a lot of fun with this. So give me a second. All right, so the two places I ended up working on, guys, and Obviously, I know these both look hideous, and actually they look like they're almost way too close. But that was the idea of the compound, that there's going to be several buildings, some attached, some detached from each other, that are all going to kind of be in this area, and some recessed back as far as I can get it into the wilderness. Now, part of the problem is, uh, with the trees and the foliage, you end up having to clear a lot of the land out. So that's what I had to do. So I lost a lot of that natural tree cover. However, I did find ways around it in kind of the design I was going for and the placement of these buildings to make them multi-purpose, but also to hide some of these more elaborate um, spaces that we're going to be ending up building. So today, what I decided to do was only to build two out of the six, and there might be more than just six, but I know definitely I'm going to have two, at least six different spaces for this R&D lab. But what I ended up building today, and part of this whole design was because I didn't realize uh, how a lot of this stuff ends up going together. Um, so so yeah, it's gonna seem real cramped. I'm actually gonna go into I'm gonna walk. I'm not gonna go into what do they call that, flying around. So first, let me start off with this. This is here because I needed gasoline, guys. I apologize. I needed gasoline because I decided if I can come in here. So first off, if you guys can't tell, so this place is really bland. Unlike the Watchtower, which was also pretty bland and boring. I wasn't trying to do too much in this area, but a lot of my idea with this space and what I'm going to try to do with a lot of it, because there is a rover in the game that you can get. I'm also thinking of like production, in terms of, like, if you're going to drive in here, this would kind of be like a garage, like you would park here, a loading dock, if you will. So this is what this space would be. This refining forge is only here temporarily. Um, but coming into here, so this is actually, guys, is a greenhouse. A lot of stuff you end up making in game is required around the plant life, refining it down, use it for toxins, medicine, food, and when you talk about making this civilization, that's definitely something that's going to be needed. And you're going to need a place that can kind of mass produce all of that. So one of the first things you'll notice is that I made this little observation deck, mainly because I put it on the edge of the cliff, and you get to kind of look out, and what will soon be all of Pandaland. You'll be able to witness it from here. So just like a nice little view up here. Uh, I'll have to put some text or something around. You can see like Pandaland or something. But you first walk in, you kind of see this. So this is actually industrial grinder. That's what they call it in game, and I'm planning on using it about the same way, except more or less about the food production. But still, not very much, obviously, guys. I ended up adding in an elevator, so I'm using a small platform here, and the elevator tracks actually go up along the wall. And this is why I needed. Hold up, I'm gonna fly around for this one. This is why I needed the refinement for it. So I put a power generator back here, and I'm actually going to do more work to clean this up. But like I said, I've literally been for the last 3 hours working on these two buildings, because I started on the greenhouse first because I said, listen, greenhouses would be a great way to put something out here on the very front of the R&D facility that could kind of hide some of the other buildings. There, once again, my mindset, guys, was like, because we lost the canopy, the tree cover to hide these buildings, I'm going to use average or more of the like the normal type um, factory buildings to hide the more secretive buildings. But so I put a power generator here, and power generators need gasoline. So I go, oh, well, if these need gasoline, of course, our entire ecosystem, our entire community is going to need gasoline. And the power generator obviously is what ends up powering the elevator. So that's when I started on this place, and I'll get to that in a second. But this is pretty much like an industrial um, smelter or furnace kind of place. But I don't want to jump too far ahead because of the fact that, I did do some interesting things in here. So it's not on at the moment just because I haven't smelted enough gasoline. But this will raise and descend because once again, the whole idea is that if it's food production, if you're using this for like uh, for medicine, if you're using it for toxins and stuff like that, like you're going to be moving large quantities of stuff, and you're going to want something that's a little bit easier to move up and down with than stairs. So that's why I ended up putting the elevator in here. Um, and you come up here to the second floor. I'm still floating around. I'm actually going to stop because the last video when I noticed that it was really choppy. You come in here, and I think I was still crouching, guys. My apologies. You come in here, and what I pretty much did, I took all the greenhouse glass and I put it all around. And I even put a little divider in here from like what is more factory into what will be the grow beds. So we go into here. So this will be the main greenhouse floor. Obviously, guys, I know people have spammed these and made them huge. Um, and if for a real like large community, you'd probably have a one much larger. But I'm not expecting on my servers to really have to deal with the hunger part. I know I'm the one who always says like I want things to be more realistic, but let's say for right now this is for medicine, this is for toxins. So and these are large grow beds. They actually produce a lot. But what I'm more excited about is what I did with the top. So I am having a lot of fun building with the catwalks, and I ended up laying some catwalks up here and a couple pipes up here so I can put some water reservoirs. And even though they won't work, I can actually make them work how I want them to work. But what I was thinking about was this is kind of would be the automatic feeder for the grow beds. So like this is where the water would be trickling down, and this is kind of like the catwalks or like the scaffolding holding all this up. So that was my idea. So like this whole thing is more of like an automated system. So like I can actually put pipes coming off from this. That would be trickling water down, keeping these nice and hydrated for whatever plants we end up putting in here. So I just really had a lot of fun building this one because it was like, oh, I get to be a little bit more creative with the look, the aesthetic inside once again. Because a lot of factories are blocky. I mean, they're not meant to be too pretty on the outside. But one thing I kind of was thinking of was like, listen, mass production, like you kind of want to try to do as much stuff in one facility as you can. So I came over here and I decided that I was going to make kind of a chute for most of the resources to kind of end up going into, and I can't jump over this for some reason. But so right underneath here, and I know the text keeps blocking it, but here's the industrial grinder, and so there's a chute that stuff would fall into and go into the grinder, and so my brain goes, oh, if you picked up fruits and vegetables and stuff, right, and you threw it into the chute and it got emulsified, it got all blended up, and let's say they were making, I don't know, applesauce here, which seems highly unlikely, but just go with me. You would come out from here after picking your crops, and then you would drop it right in here. And then you'd go down here to which would be more like the factory floor, more of the production where this would be grinding out, and then you'd be taking that into, distilleries or some kind of containment system where you could hold all that stuff. So that was my mindset, guys. I'm going to play around a little bit more. I'm probably going to add some more just like aesthetic stuff here and there. But this is kind of where my greenhouse is going to be for the minute. This will not stay, and all the dead bodies because I kept building and things kept wanting to fight me. But now comes to this building. So this building was 100% inspired because I needed gasoline. And they're telling me the industrial forge was the fastest way to get gasoline. However, you end up needing gasoline for the industrial forge, hence why the refining forge is right here. So first thing I'll show you guys, once again, I always like showing off the outside first. The building is still very blocky, but I kind of went a little bit more slanted roofs. And actually, the tops over here, are what I'm kind of calling like the smokestacks or the chimneys, are parts of the industrial forge. So the industrial forges are huge. And so my idea was like, oh, well, if this place is like a smelting facility, if this place is for making gasoline, of course, you're going to have smokestacks. So I ended up putting that in and letting it stay outside the actual facility itself, because as you can see, once you're inside the places, like your character, the first person view kind of messes with your size of a lot of stuff. Like if I was to toggle into third person, you would see that I'm about as high as most of these blocks. So this thing is pretty big. I'm not going to stay in this view for very long because it disorients even me. Um, Let me get back into first person there. And then what I ended up doing here was I took a couple of the sloped roofs and I kind of made like vents, quote unquote. Obviously, I didn't really make vents. These are just kind of made to look that way. But, if you're working in a place with high fumes and high heat, you kind of need something that's for air ventilation and smoke ventilation as well. So, so that's what I was kind of working with. I also threw a force field generator on top because, if my civilization ever got attacked by somebody, this place would suck to get attacked because, if I'm making gasoline here, it's going to go boom real quick. Um, but, I mean, these places are really close together, and I know that kind of makes it hard. I'm actually losing a lot of the kind of like compound immersion by doing this because they're so close together. But I did know that a lot of these places were going to be more um, more independent, like smaller buildings inside the overall compound. So obviously, I'm still using a lot of the tech elements in most of the building designs. And as you can see, I put one door here, and this is going to be a little area that I don't know what I'm gonna put in here yet, but I didn't want to put the door right up to the facility. I wanted to give it an area in between. And then I went with the too high door here, just as an aesthetic walk-in. And the first thing you see is I have two big industrial furnaces here. Now these things look amazing. That's why I was like, I'm not even going to try to like house them in something. I'm just going to let them be their natural selves. They end up taking about a 3x3 grid, so 9 block square, um, and which is it's a lot of space. So you can imagine how many how many of these blocks I had to put down. Um, but I said that would pretty much be majority of the facility. If these things are industrial, they're pumping out a lot of stuff. You would only need a couple. Excuse me, I burped. Um, and once again, I was having fun with the catwalk. So what I ended up making was, I don't know if you guys are familiar, and this bit of information came from a friend of mine and actually a boss at one of my jobs, who he used to be, and actually this is why I was crouched because this is kind of tight. Um, he was a boiler operator on naval ships, and what he used to tell me was, the job would get hectic at times, but a lot of the times you're just kind of sitting there watching this thing, taking readings. And he said, there's pathways to get to every part of that boiler because if something breaks, you need to be able to get a way to fix it. And so that's why I ended up putting the catwalk up here to kind of access, like, um, in my mind, you're going to have like some pumps going on. You're going to have, injections for like, the gasoline you have to use for these things. Like, you can get around them. Like the whole idea was, in a real life scenario, these things like would have to be maintained and monitored. Um, so definitely shouts out to him for that information, which was helpful in the design of my, I'm gonna call this like the fueling or I don't even know what I'm gonna call this place yet. The furnace facility. Um, and obviously I threw in a couple of industrial cookers as it kind of looked like um, not weight like holding containers. I'm gonna throw a couple more around because obviously that's not a lot in terms of how big these things are. That's pretty small. So I'm gonna throw a couple more around here, guys. But I mean, once again, it's gonna be fairly bare because the whole idea is that these are specialized facilities. So this one is for making stuff inside of the industrial forge. So if you say like gasoline, um, and the greenhouse for the production of the food and whatnot. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with this build. Um, Definitely got a little bit aggravated just because, it was a lot of. I got a little bit restricted in my space for the greenhouse because how close I put um, the forge facility. But I said that's okay. I'll end up fixing that more. I'm gonna try to build out more this way too with some of the other facilities. I know I definitely want to do a weapon testing facility, which is going to be rather large. I also want to do a medical facility. So there's just going to be a lot of different places that are going to be popping up. So we're going to have a lot of our science R&D stuff around here. Um, so I'm going to keep working on these a little bit more. I'm going to add some finishing touches to these buildings. But tell me what you guys think about these structures. I know they're pretty bland, but just kind of how have you guys see the creative process? You kind of see what I was going for here. Um, do you have any suggestions for things I could add into these? And let me know what you think about the series overall, because obviously, guys, this is only episode 2, so any feedback you have is greatly appreciated. Uh, Please go hit that like button if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this series or some of the other videos I have posted. So this will be this. This is it for Arc Builders, episode 2. I'm gonna cut it here. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.